The second reading is from Matthew chapter 13, beginning at verse 31. He gave them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that a man took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest garden plant and becomes a tree, so that the wild birds come and nest in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast, that a woman took and mixed with 3 measures of flour until all the dough has risen. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field that a person found and hid. Then, because of joy, he went and sold all that he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant searching for fine pearls. And when he found a pearl of great value, he went out and sold everything he had and bought it.
Good morning and welcome to St Mary's Woodlands. Bit of a murky day, but lovely and green, even if a bit overgrown. Thank you for the people that read the readings. It's been lovely to see so many of you through the services making up different roles, particularly the celebration of the peace. As part of a Zoom group I attend, called Radical Presence, a variety of Christians from around Leicestershire meet up and talk about potential changes that we might make coming out of this lockdown, both personally and as churches. Early on, we had to consider where we had found joy amidst all this. For me, it has been beauty and nature. It has also been in the shared glimpses of glory. Some of you will remember Deb Robinson. She used to come to St Mary's Church. Here's an edited video she sent in.
It's really difficult to speak and to talk right now with there is such a quality of stillness to the river and to the calmness with which it flows. So there's a few little eddies and then it just goes completely still. And that with the light and the bird song, it makes it difficult to express the thoughts you have. It's almost as if this really gentle, beautiful little place is saying, shut up and listen, stop trying to speak. And I just kind of think in this madness that we as a human race have now got ourselves into, that we actually just need to shut up and listen. Because every day that I wake up, nature is just alive. The sounds and the song and the voice, and even in the silence, there's something deliciously beautiful about it.
Thank you, Dev, that was glorious. Today's passage from Romans talks of future glory. The first verse could be written to speak to us directly. I consider the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. It's important to point out here that this is not minimising the pain and suffering felt by people due to COVID-19. or any other challenging situations. But more excitingly, it's a promise for the future. A future so glorious that the scale of this overwhelming glory will mean that the worst suffering experienced will seem minor in comparison. The passage tells us that creation waits longingly, at times feeling hopeless, groaning from the weight of man's sin, the pollution as a sign of evidence, piles of waste, poisonous rivers. As Christians, we are called to live differently because of Christ's death and resurrection. For creation waits with eager longing for the children of God. Empowered by the Spirit of God that helps us in our weakness to live a life that sets free creation. In this series, based on the Tear Fund World Rebooted resources, we are looking at how we can build a better world. A world in which we reassess our values, deal with conflicting values, and model God's community, creating a better world for everyone. Over the last two services, we have looked at greater togetherness and valuing life over financial gain. Today we are focusing on imagining a better future and thinking of some small changes that we can make in our lives to begin to put that into action. From the first passage, we heard of the need to imagine, and then by the power of the Holy Spirit, work towards a glorious kingdom. Second passage, through the parables, Jesus gives us some pointers about this glorious kingdom. The first two tell similar stories. In the parable of the mustard seed, we hear of a tiny seed that grows into a tree. But not a massive tree, it's not great in the eyes of the world, yet still part of the ecostructure, providing shade and a place for birds to roost. The parable of the yeast talks of the fact that a tiny piece of yeast can have a huge impact on a large amount of flour. This tells us that if we exercise faith and patience, through the power of the Holy Spirit, small beginnings have the potential to grow and grow, spreading God's kingdom. The parable of the treasure and the parable of the pearl go together. We either come across the kingdom accidentally, or we might have spent years looking for it. Yet when we find it, it is so glorious. The reign of God here on earth, of justice, peace and presence. We give up everything, because everything is a cheap price to pay. This is not sacrificial giving. This giving itself leads to joy. It's not necessarily a giving of possessions or money, but in how we live our lives and model kingdom values, and how we behave to others as we go about our lives. Around the world, we see the negative impacts of climate change and the effects on human lives. Glaciers shrinking, sea levels rising, more intense heat waves, fires and floods, all impacting crop growth and human health, placing certain species in risk of extinction. It is thought that as climate increases, extreme weather events will become more frequent, with the poorer countries being the worst affected and suffering the most. Although some of the changes to the climate is natural, it has been demonstrated that the temperature has increased much at a faster rate since the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s. Human activity, releasing carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the air, paired with the removal of huge areas of trees that would have absorbed some of these gases, This has led to a 40% rise of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in the 20th and 21st century. This has had a major contribution towards global warming. During this epidemic, we've had more time to sit and reflect. Like Debs, many have remarked upon how good it has been with less cars on the road, leading to fresher air, changes in light quality, and increased visibility. The noise of the birds, seeing more wild animals. We need to reflect upon what life might look like after this, and imagine. Maybe this time gives us a chance to create a new normal. So how can we build back better? And what is the church's role in this? In Genesis, we are given a biblical mandate to steward the earth. We are to be stewards reflecting God's image, caring for the world around us. It's not just something for the king, it is part of each Christian's everyday discipleship. So what can we do? I'm going to suggest 3 relatively small changes. Not a huge impact, but a start. Sowing a seed to join God in His work. Firstly, the issue of food miles. The distance traveled by food from your producer to your plate, and the impact on the environment. Food shipped by air creates 50 times more carbon emissions than shipped by sea. How about purchasing your fresh food from local farm shops? It's more likely to be of a higher quality, contributes to the local economy, and minimises the distance travelled and the environmental impact of your food. Secondly, our high levels of meat and dairy consumption are a problem. A report by the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization stated that the livestock industry is one of the top 2 or 3 most significant contributors to those serious environmental problems at every scale, from local to global, contributing to land degradation, climate change, air pollution, water shortage, water pollution, and loss of biodiversity. So tip 2. Have 1 or 2 extra meals a week without meat. Being vegan is the best, but if you don't want to go that far, and you still need some meat in your diet, have chicken instead of beef, because this is better for the environment. The third issue is waste. We frequently buy excess food that then ends up in the landfill, contributing to greenhouse gas. So tip 3 is in 3 parts. 1. Plan out your weekly meals before you go shopping and only buy what you need. 2. And I'm sure many of you already do this. Do not bin leftovers. Turn them into another meal. Thirdly, compost all that you can and use this in your garden. If you don't have a garden, how about giving it to someone else in the community? Post-COVID, we do not have to go back to our old ways. We have the opportunity to imagine, and imagine big. Imagine a world that reflects back the love and beauty of God. Romans 8 verse 22 tells us that creation is groaning in anticipation of this. It is what we seek when we pray, your kingdom come. It is what we live out when we love God and love our neighbour. This transition period is a chance to test ways of thinking and acting. We are considering starting a study group on a Wednesday morning, learning more about faith and the environment. If you would be interested in this, please let Adele or I know. These may seem small changes that I've suggested. They may seem pointless in terms of impact. However, we should be modelling God's kingdom through our actions. Remember, if we exercise faith and patience through the power of the Holy Spirit, it's all beginning to have potential to grow and grow.